the story that we've been covering, and it had to do with one of the voters, Hub Arkush. He owns Pro Football Weekly. Now, I think his family owns it, but he's a long time Chicago sports writer. And he is a voter for the MVP. And he came out earlier this week. He was on The Score in Chicago and said that he's not voting for Aaron Rodgers because he's the biggest jerk in the league. This is how it sounded.
I don't think you can be the biggest jerk in the league and punish your team and your organization, your fan base the way he did and be the most valuable player. Has he been the most valuable on the field? Yeah, you could make that argument, but I don't think he is clearly that much more valuable than Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp or maybe even Tom Brady. And so from where I sit, the rest of it is why he's not going to be my choice. Do I think he's going to win it? Probably. A lot of the voters don't approach it the same way that I do. Others do, who I've spoken to. But one of the ways we get to keep being voters is we're not allowed to say who we are voting for until after the award has been announced. I'm probably pushing the envelope by saying who I'm not voting for, but we're not really supposed to reveal our votes.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, but this is what happens. You'll have people who get on local radio stations, and they get loose. This is home crowd. This is your audience. This is Chicago. This is Bears. And, a famous radio station, The Score. And you're just talking to your buddies, and you're getting loose a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the story becomes more than just, hey, you said this on a Chicago radio station. Then it goes viral, as we like to say. Here is Aaron Rodgers reacting to what Hub Arkush said about him.
I think he's a bum. I think he's an absolute bum. He doesn't know me. I don't know who he is. No one knew who he was probably until yesterday's comments. But, I mean, and I listened to the comments, but to say he had his mind made up in the summertime, in the off season, that, I had zero chance of winning MVP, in my opinion, should exclude, future votes. His problem isn't with me being a bad guy or the biggest jerk in the league. Because he doesn't know me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know anything about me. I mean, I've never met him. I've never had lunch with him. I've never had an interview with him. His problem is I'm not vaccinated. So if he wants to go on a crusade and collude and come up with an extra letter to put on the award just for this season and make it the most valuable vaccinated player, then he should do that. But he's a bum, and I'm not going to waste any time worrying about that stuff. He has no idea who I am. He's never talked to me in his life. But it's unfortunate that those sentiments. It's surprising that he would even say that, to be honest. But I knew this was possible. Talked about it on McAfee weeks ago. But crazy.
I wish that Aaron Rodgers had just stopped and say, he's a bum. Or just say, who? I don't know who this is. But that's not Aaron Rodgers. Well, Hub Arkush is walking back his comment. He had this to say about Aaron Rodgers.
I made a big mistake last night, and it really it doesn't really have much to do with Aaron Rodgers. Being one of the 50 selectors in the AP polls, it's a real honor and it's a privilege. And the thing that I feel really awful about is that most of the other 49 presenters are acquaintances, and a lot of them are friends. And I've now, put them in an unfortunate position where they have to be asked about it. They may have to choose to talk about it or defend it. And that's just wrong. And I feel awful about it. And I really, wish it hadn't happened. Beyond that, the only thing I can do going forward is now respect what I failed to respect last night and just not talk about it anymore until after, the awards have been given.
He's not apologizing for how he feels about Aaron Rodgers. He's apologizing because he went against what is supposed to be protocol when you vote on. The Heisman Trophy people said to me, they've said to everybody, all the voters, don't tell people who you're voting for. You're supposed to wait until after. And most voters don't have a radio show. But I do argue that it's content to talk about this. And look, I value the opportunity to vote on the Heisman. I valued voting on NBA awards every year. But I was also told that you're not supposed to do this. Therefore, I abide by that. I wanted to talk about who I was going to vote for the Heisman. I did talk about certain candidates, but they said, let's wait until after the voting. And I could be vague and still accomplish what I want to accomplish there. Now, there's 900 voters for the Heisman. This is 50 guys voting for the MVP. And most people, I didn't know all these people were voting for the MVP. Paulie printed it out, and I go, wow, that guy's a voter? That guy's a voter? It happens where you have a bias. It's natural. You know, Kurt Warner got into the Hall of Fame. John Smoltz got into the Hall of Fame. Likability helped a whole lot there. Michael Irvin had to wait a year. T.O. had to wait, I think, 2 years. Kurt Schilling is still waiting. The dislikability does factor in. Does Hub Arkush respect Aaron Rodgers as a football player? On the field, yes. Did he factor in something that maybe you shouldn't be factoring in? Yeah. But most people don't use a platform to tell you their bias. And this is a guy who has his own business. Pro Football Weekly. He's not getting fired. Do I think his vote is in jeopardy? Probably so. Because you don't want to have somebody go into a season already saying, I won't vote for that guy. And Rodgers is the biggest jerk in the NFL. He may feel that way, but when you say it publicly, I think as an organization, you got to take roll call here and say, guys, what are you doing? You can have an opinion about a player, but you don't, if you come out and say it that way, then it feels like, are you truly voting for the right people for the right reasons? And that is, it's about football. Going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you're not supposed to factor in what you do off the field. It's almost impossible to do that now because we do know more about these athletes off the field. Growing up, I didn't know about the Big Red Machine off the field. I didn't know about Pete Rose or Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan off the field, if there was anything to know, or football players. We didn't hear anything. I remember when Jim Bouton, he wrote the book Ball 4 came out. And at the time, it was like, oh, my God. He's pulled back the curtain. He's telling you all the things that happen on road trips and North Dallas 40. When Pete Gent wrote that, I was like, oh, my God. We didn't know any of that. Now we know everything. Hell, I know Antonio Brown's routing number for his bank account. It's just, I think when you vote, every year, it felt like I was voting for Michael Jordan. And I got criticized because Barkley won the MVP one year, Karl Malone won the MVP. And my thought was the most valuable player in the league is going to be the guy who wins the championship. And I remember being taken to task in Salt Lake and Phoenix by writers because I was not necessarily voting on what happened during the regular season. I was voting on the totality of that player the entire year, including the playoffs. Because, I mean, it all comes down to championships. And maybe I wasn't fair to Barkley or Malone, but if you said who's the most valuable player in the NBA, I voted for Jordan. Even though Barkley and Malone had better years, I guess, I still voted for Jordan. Was I being fair to the process? Maybe not. But in my mind, if you said value, there's nobody more valuable than Michael Jordan. And I remember talking to David Stern, the late commissioner, and I brought it up to him, and he said, you can have your own rationale. Like, that's your opinion, and we're open to that. He said, for you to have votes, then we have to trust you with your knowledge on basketball. And I always appreciated that, because if the commissioner didn't like what I was doing or saying, he would tell me. But I did tell him, that I voted for Jordan those, 6 times. I just kept going, he's the most he's going to win a championship. And then even using that as motivation. And I think Rodgers is doing that as well. And I go back to what Carson Palmer said last week, that Aaron wants to play, and he would want to play against Detroit because he wants to put up a couple of more touchdown passes, get a win, best record in football, and you have to give him the MVP. No matter what your thoughts are on him getting vaccinated or immunized or deceiving or lying or whatever it is, and it felt like the media was like, wait a minute, he lied to us. Okay, yeah. But you know what? He said, I'm immunized. The reporters could have said, could you explain what that means? Nobody did that. He might have deceived us, but did he deceive his team? They knew exactly what was going on. The medical staff knew Aaron Rodgers wasn't vaccinated. Now, did he flaunt those rules inside the facility? Probably so. But that's on the Packers. Like, I can't go, boy, he lied to us. Okay, so he did. But I'm watching what he's doing on the field. And he's going to be the MVP this year. But, Hub Arkush, open apology for his Aaron Rodgers comments, are really not walking back how he feels about Aaron Rodgers. When you disrespect the process, that's the problem here. And those are his words. He made a mistake in really letting you behind the curtain there. And his opportunity to vote in future awards categories probably in jeopardy right now. Yeah, Paul.
Dan, I got to tell you, I think you're right on a lot of those points. But as a Chicagoan, I think Hub missed a huge opportunity to cement himself as a Chicago Bear Homer legend forever. He should have got on the air today on The Score and said, I stand by what I said, jerk for life, 85 Bears for life. I'm out with a Dan Hampton jersey on.
Bear dignity.
Bear dignity.
Bear dignity.
And
turns out I was right.
Turns out I was right. Boom.
Yeah. If he would have said, hey, you guys heard Rodgers. Told you, jerk.
Now does Hub Arkush come back and say, what do you say to Aaron Rodgers calling you a bum? That guy doesn't even know me. We've never had lunch together. He shouldn't say that. He doesn't even know anything about me.
And Rodgers is not going to let this go. Like on this weekend when they're in the game, he'll be at the line, bum 19, jerk. Bum 19,
jerk,
jerk 19,
jerk, cut it.
Biased reporter.
Yeah. That would be great.
I can see it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be awesome.
Arkush.